When courtiers first opened the red leather folder titled Project 75, they imagined a textbook royal jubilee, carriage procession down the Mall, Te Deum in St. Paul's, televised dinner where violins swell as Prince William toasts the indomitable spirit of my aunt. By paragraph 4 every plan lay scorched. Princess and soldier's daughter, Olympic rider, survivor of a kidnapping attempt, patron to more charities than there are days in the year, had issued a blunt, two-sentence memo: no fuss. Redirect resources to my patronages. The Lord Chamberlain crossed the corridor, hoping to negotiate at least a balcony appearance. The Princess Royal adjusted her gloves, met his gaze and quoted her father, "Waste of candles." Thus began the quietest high-level standoff Buckingham Palace has witnessed since the abdication crisis, and it ended, as standoffs with and usually do, on her terms. The milestone she dismisses fell into place long before August 1950, when a newborn princess wailed beneath the Balmoral rafters and an exhausted but exhilarated Elizabeth noted in her diary, "and very vocal." That volume never softened. At 4 she rejected the nursery nanny's attempt to tame her curls. At 12 she demanded weekly reports from the royal stablemaster. At 18 she outran grooms across the Windsor gallops and informed a startled press pack that female equestrians ride just as hard as the men, better, sometimes. 2 years later, on the Montreal cross-country course, she became the first British royal to compete in the Olympics. She carried on after a fall that left her concussed, finishing the round though she remembered none of it. Half a century later, after another horse knocked her unconscious at Gatcombe and she awoke in Southmere Hospital with no memory of the impact, she joked to nurses, "Déjà vu, only greyer." That grit defines her public life as much as her disdain for frills. In 1974 Ian Ball blocked her limousine on Pall Mall, brandished a revolver and ordered her out. And, pinned in the back seat, looked him squarely in the eye and snapped, "Not bloody likely," buying seconds for bodyguard Jim Beaton to take the bullet. The incident cemented her image, unflappable, mildly terrifying, duty welded to bone. It also recalibrated her sense of personal celebration. Birthdays became pit stops, not finish lines. At 40 she spent the day opening a police rehabilitation wing. At 50 she visited flood-damaged farms in Devon. At 60 she inspected NATO field exercises in Estonia. At 70 she laid a wreath in Afghanistan. Only the zeros rated a morning service and a single trumpet flourish. Thus the palace shouldn't have been surprised when she vetoed a platinum-rimmed banquet for 75. But officials argued this birthday mattered more than optics. King Charles, fresh from cancer treatment, wants visible proof that senior royals still grind through bread-and-butter engagements while he and the Princess of Wales recuperate. And countered that optics without substance ring hollow in a cost-of-living crisis, citing food bank demand up 38% and small charities closing weekly. If the monarchy wished to celebrate her service, let it empower the sector she serves. Intrigued but wary, Charles acquiesced so long as at least one commemorative gesture reached the public. Hence the British Royal Mint's unprecedented silver £5 coin, its reverse engraved with John Swannell's portrait, and in blues and royal's mess dress, the hint of a half-smile suggesting she tolerates the honour only because the proceeds fund engineering bursaries for girls in deprived Scottish estates. Behind the scenes the charities forum she demanded morphs into a logistical operation rivaling a state banquet. On the 13th of August, refrigerated trucks will roll through Buckingham's North Gate carrying vats of leek soup, trays of haddock gudgeons and 3,000 Fairtrade oat bars, fuel for the biggest non-profit summit ever hosted under the palace chandeliers. 400 CEOs, volunteers, and frontline clinicians will network in zones color-coded not by precedents but by problem: rural mental health, maritime rescue, youth STEM, female offender reintegration, equine welfare. And intends to move among them every 20 minutes, no podium, no teleprompter, just the battered notebook where she scribbles action items. Ask MOD re-surplus sleeping bags, call DEFRA about microplastic nets, invite Orkney pupils to auto-engineering demo. She has conducted such speed briefings since the 1980s and follows up ruthlessly. Woe to the civil servant who ignores her emailed bullet points. Yes, the 75-year-old uses email at 5:45 before mounting her horse. Some courtiers fear the forum could overshadow her actual birthday 2 days later, but insiders say that suits her. On the 15th she will rise at 5 in her Gatcombe farmhouse, muck out stables beside Sir Tim, ride the perimeter with her dogs, Then helicopter to London for one engagement only, a closed-door strategy meeting with the 2025 Special Olympics GB board. Mid-afternoon she'll retreat to Frogmore Cottage, loaned by the King for a quiet tea with her children Zara and Peter, plus grandchildren who call her Gangan Tough. No photographers, no midnight carriage ride home. By dawn on the 16th she'll be in Portsmouth christening a new Sea King Air ambulance, because, as she once told a fatigued aide who suggested a late start, if I wanted a lie-in, I'd have chosen another family. The public, paradoxically, adores her more for these refusals. Polling by Savanta shows 81% of Britons view her as hard-working versus 52% for the monarchy overall. Even Republican columnists concede she embodies value for money, 10 pence per engagement, if you divide the sovereign grant by her annual tally. In Scotland, where devolution angst often curdles against Windsor pomp, she polls higher than any royal except the late Queen, thanks to decades judging sheep in Stirling rain, speaking Gaelic phrases without flinching, and backing rural broadband years before Whitehall noticed black spots. Her future calendar hints at no slowdown. In September she heads to Kiribati for climate resilience workshops, then jumps directly to Saskatchewan for Indigenous youth sport clinics, finishing the week aboard an RFA tanker in the North Atlantic. October brings the World Equestrian Games in Riyadh, November a Kidnapped Survivors Symposium in Vienna, December a midnight service with lifeboat crews at Padstow Harbour. She has told friends she aims to retire at 90 if the knees object, but Sir Tim suspects she'll keep a smaller helicopter on standby beyond that. When a reporter asked recently whether another 50 years of service felt daunting, she replied, "One engagement at a time." The phrase landed on social media like a motivational poster, accept and would likely shred any framed slogan and hand you a to-do list instead. Why does her stance matter beyond royal trivia? Because it reframes what celebration looks like for public figures who wield inherited privilege. By converting a potential gala into a working summit, she signals that ceremonial monarchies survive only by constant service audit. She also sets a bar for younger Windsors. When Prince George eventually inherits a throne in a nation of fractious identities and climate anxiety, he may look back at Great-Aunt and 75th and grasp that longevity in public life isn't earned by fireworks but by showing up, notebook in hand, rain or shine. In the meantime, one small, silver coin glints in collectors' palms, a silent emblem of duty performed without trumpet fanfares. And somewhere beyond the palace lawns a princess in mud-speckled breeches reviews her next briefing. Content that the grand celebration Britain wanted for her has been quietly repurposed into something she wants far more, another hard day's work.